Shouldn't it end there? Because you really come and purchase a vehicle. Why ask somebody else to purchase the vehicle and another person to purchase the vehicle and eventually to have this vehicle in the name of the High Commission? Now, to the ordinary man in the street, isn't that a form of dishonesty?
It's not. Dishonesty if you hide it from the person who you're purchasing from. You're not hiding anything. When you go to Colombian Emeralds and you go to Duty Free Caribbean to buy purchase goods duty free, and you come with your friend's tickets, your friend's ticket information, right? You think Colombian Emeralds is not aware that it's not your goods. They know the ticket doesn't belong to you. It's not in your name. This is exactly what transpired there. Using somebody's discount. If someone has a discount card and they could purchase goods, they purchase the goods on your behalf. This is what transpired there. Nothing else but that. Right? But the person selling the goods is aware of it.
Yeah, shouldn't it?
Good evening, my Saint Lucian, my fellow Saint Lucians. Good evening, Cornelius. How are you? Folks, it was my intention tonight to come and talk about the new Tourism Development Act. And I will talk about that very briefly. But the priority has shifted tonight. And folks, I'm going to start off by talking about this government's intention to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final appellate court without the blessings and approval from the people for a referendum. Folks, I'm going to explain this in very, very simple terms so everybody can understand. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to explain it in the very simple terms. Right now, our final appellate court, if you have a matter within the courts and it goes through the various appeal processes, the final stage right now as it currently stands is that if it goes all the way through and you keep on appealing, the final appellate court will be the Privy Council in England. This government wants to, not just they want to, it is their every intention to, on Tuesday, go to Parliament and use their 2/3 majority to unilaterally amend the Constitution of Saint Lucia. To amend, hear me clearly, to amend the Constitution of Saint Lucia. To change the Constitution of Saint Lucia. And this is not a basic, this is not a frivolous matter. This is a very, very serious matter with far-reaching and long-reaching implications for Saint Lucia, for Saint Lucians, for the outcomes of elections, for the outcomes of very, very, very serious matters. To amend our Constitution. And for the folks, those of us who live in the diaspora, who live in the Canada, US, England, etc., we know the Constitution of our countries is not something that is easily tampered with. Because the Constitution is a document that protects people's rights, people's civil liberties. It's the law. And while over time you may amend for little things, when you have major changes to make to the Constitution of the country, to determine which body is your final appellate court, the final court of appeal. This is a very serious matter. which should not be left up to the directives of politicians. Even if they have a 2/3 majority in the House, they should be seeking the blessings and approval from the citizens to make such a fundamental change in the constitution of the country. Folks, on Tuesday, and I want you to hear me clearly, and I am not just speaking to UWPs, I am speaking to Saint Lucians of all walks of life. UWPs, SLP supporters, no P, the people who are middle of the road, the people who ultimately decide the outcomes of the elections, those middle of the line voters, people who don't vote at all, all Saint Lucians, I am speaking to you. No matter your political persuasion, no matter your social strata in Saint Lucia, no matter your socioeconomic, wherever you come from, whether north, south, east, west, whether you identify as Malay way of bourgeois, of middle class, whatever you identify as, I am speaking to you tonight. This government is going to the House on Tuesday to amend our constitution, to put their hands in our constitution and play in our constitution without the blessings and the approval of Saint Lucians. And they are using the 2/3 majority to do it. Folks, the only way this could be right is through a referendum. Can they do it? Can they amend the constitution given a 2/3 majority? Yes, they can. Can they amend our constitution given their 2/3 majority in the House? Yes, they can. They certainly can. Legally, they certainly can. But not because you can do something. It means you should do something. Not because you legally can do something, mean you should do something. Folks, I dare say to you, this is an undemocratic move by this government to tamper with our very constitution for nothing else but political motivations. Folks, I am asking you to demand from this government, no matter what your political persuasion is, to demand that they take this matter to a referendum. Have Saint Lucians vote on this. If at the end of the day, Saint Lucians vote that they do want to go to the CCJ, the Caribbean Court of Justice, as opposed to the Privy Council as our final appeals court, if Saint Lucians vote yes, that they do want to go to the CCJ, then fine. Then wonderful, then take us to the CCJ. But folks, I say to you that this government should not be unilaterally using its 2/3 majority in the House and not seeking the blessing and approval from the people. And folks, let me tell you, this CCJ, we have not been informed. There has not been sufficient public consultation on this matter. There has not been sufficient public education on the matter. I dare say most of us, even the most educated among us, far less the least educated among us, have not been informed of the CCJ and the pros and cons. And I put it to you, Saint Lucians, that everybody, whether you have a PhD, or whether you never finished high school, whether you never finished primary school, you should be able to understand the very fundamental basics of what it means for you and for the country to go to the CCJ. No matter what your educational level is, the public education campaign surrounding issues of the Caribbean Court of Justice should be on the tip of everybody's tongue, where everybody should be able to articulate a position and tell you the pros and cons about the CCJ and then take a position. There has been no public education about this matter. There has been no public education about this matter. There has been no public education about the Caribbean Court of Justice and what it means for Saint Lucia and what it means for the average Saint Lucian. Folks, I am asking you, put in the chat now, yes or no. Do you feel that you are in a position? Be honest with me. Be honest with me. If I'm wrong, I stand corrected. Be honest with me. Tell me yes or no. Do you think you have sufficient knowledge based on what the government has told you about the CCJ, based on the fair and balanced discourse, based on the information the government has put out there, based on the public education, based on the public consultation? Do you feel that you have sufficient knowledge to make an educated and informed decision about whether you support Saint Lucia going to the Caribbean Court of Justice or not? Tell me in the chat. If I am wrong, I stand corrected. Tell me in the chat. I'm looking at your comments. I am seeing 2 no's. Folks, I want you all to be honest with me. I want you all to be honest with me. If you think you have sufficient knowledge based on the public education and consultation out there, please tell me in the chat. I will stand corrected if I am wrong. I am seeing no's. I am seeing lots of no's. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me yes. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me yes. I'm seeing lots of no's. I am seeing lots of no's. I haven't seen a single yes. Folks, I want you to take off any political eyes. I want you to take off. The UWPs who are in the chat, please take off your lens. I want you to tell me seriously, do you have sufficient public education on this for you to make an informed, educated decision on whether you support the CCJ or not? I am looking to see somebody who say yes. I am seeing only no's. Folks, please tell me, take off your political lens. Let's be objective here, please. I am seeing only no's. I am seeing only no's. I am seeing only no's. Tulina St. Rose Brown says, I do. And because of this knowledge, I think it's a big mistake if this happens. Thank you, Tulina, that you have sufficient knowledge. Thank you. Cornelius Herrell says, I do not support this move without a referendum. Somebody says, imagine Gaster Brown saying that he can take his phone and call a judge from the CCJ. Somebody says, I have no idea on that. Folks, I want you to hear me clearly. I want you to hear me clearly. Whether or not Saint Lucia goes to the CCJ should ultimately be decided by the outcome of a vote by the people. And that vote should only happen after public consultation and public education. And that has not happened. This government is rushing a move to the CCJ. A year and a half in, almost 2 years into their term, they are rushing a move to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Why? At a time when so many other priorities have not been dealt with in the country. The crime problem, St. Jude's, the airport, the economic situation, unemployment, relief for the people with inflation. So many pressing matters have not been addressed, but this government is focusing on a move to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Why? At a time when there's been no public education, no consultation, they are rushing this move without a referendum. Folks, is this government afraid of the people? Are they afraid to take this to the people for a vote? If you are so confident in your decision, if you are so confident that people support this decision, take it to a vote. Take it to a referendum. If you are so confident that you have the blessing and support of the people of Saint Lucia in this decision that you are making on our behalf, where we gave you no permission to, take it to the people for a vote. And let me say to this government, the 15-2 majority that you brag about does not give you the right. It may legally give you the ability to amend the Constitution, but it does not give you the right to make a decision on our behalf. Because this was not even a platform issue. Folks, this was not even a platform issue. If the Labour Party had said in its last campaign, one of our key priorities if we win the election is to take Saint Lucia to the Caribbean Court of Justice and replace the Privy Council as our final appeals court. If the Labour Party had said that to the people in the run-up to the last election, if it was a platform issue, if it was a priority issue for the Labour Party, I could understand. I would not agree that they should not go for a referendum. I think a fundamental change like that to our constitution should go to referendum. But I would partially excuse it if this was a platform campaign issue of the Labour Party, that every Saint Lucian, whether he supported them or not, knew that if they had won, they would be going to the CCJ. I would have said, okay, they told us repeatedly that if they won, that was their intention. They did not. The Labour Party never told Saint Lucians that the CCJ was an election ticket item. They never did. They never did. So now they are using their 2/3 majority in the House. Folks, 50%, less than 50%, 49 point something percent of Saint Lucians voted in the last elections. Less than 50% of Saint Lucians voted in the last election. And out of that, this Labour Party government, despite the fact that they have a 2/3 majority and a 15-2 majority in the House, in terms of popular vote, they have only won by just over 6,000 votes. They do not command the approval or the support of the majority of Saint Lucians. Contrary to what they will have you believe, that their 15-2 majority makes them lord over all they survey, and the ability to just change a constitution willy-nilly, their ability to change a constitution, our constitution, willy-nilly, without the ultimate consultation of the people through a referendum, they do not have the majority of support of Saint Lucians. Less than 50% of Saint Lucians voted in the last election. And they only won the last election by just over 6,000 votes. Really and truly, in terms of registered voters, this government only has the support of 29% of registered voters. So if they are depending on that to arbitrarily and unilaterally change the constitution, amend the constitution without consulting Saint Lucians, this is a highly undemocratic move, and I am calling on all Saint Lucians. I am calling on all Saint Lucians, regardless of your political persuasion, your walk in life, your lot in life, to stand up to this government and say no. Folks, this is going before the House on Tuesday. This is going to before the House, where they and their comrades are going to change our constitution. Folks, I am calling on all Saint Lucians. All. UWP, SLP, no P, PLP, UPP, whatever your P. I want you to come outside the House on Tuesday morning. Even if you support the government, Even if you support the Labour Party government, but you do not support this, hear me clearly. Even if you support this Labour Party government, but you are opposed to this move, I want you to come outside the House of Parliament on Tuesday morning. I want all Saint Lucians, every single Saint Lucian is entitled to come out and stand in front of the House of Assembly when it sits and when it meets. I am calling out every Saint Lucian to come outside of the house and make your concerns heard. Saint Lucians, hear me clearly when I tell you this. Hear me clearly when I tell you this. Our first and foremost duty as citizens of Saint Lucia is to guard our rights and liberties as Saint Lucians. And wherever that is in question, no matter if it's your party doing it, we need to stand in solidarity as Saint Lucians. You could still support your party. I have no issue with that. You could still support your party, you could still support your government. But we need to send a strong signal to this government that our constitution, such a fundamental change to our constitution, should not be done outside our referendum and put it to a vote to Saint Lucians. Yes, somebody said wear red or yellow shirts. Wear whatever you color you want. Wear whatever color you want. But I want Saint Lucians to come out on Tuesday morning and stand outside the House of Assembly. Come outside and stand outside the House of Parliament. Come and stand outside, folks. Register your voice as a concerned Saint Lucian. When we look back at history, you need to be on the right side of history. Folks, hear me. If this goes to a vote and Saint Lucians vote, yes, let's go to the CCJ, no problem. Majority rules. We are a democratic country. But 15 men and women cannot decide to take a decision that we cannot reverse. Folks, hear me clearly. Hear me clearly. We cannot reverse this decision. Once we go to the CCJ, we cannot go back to the Privy Council. Folks, hear me again. Once we amend our constitution and go to the Caribbean Court of Justice as our final appellate body, there is no going back to the Privy Council. This move cannot be reversed. If the government changes and the next government wants to go back, there is no going back. There is no reversing this move. This is a very serious matter that should be taken to the people via a referendum. And I am asking all Saint Lucians, tomorrow, Monday, to reach out to your member of parliament, your parliamentary rep, and let them know your position on this CCJ matter. Let them know that you are demanding that this goes to a referendum. We are not telling them not to go to the CCJ, We are telling them, take it to the people. Do not change our constitution without our blessing and our approval. Folks, I have heard so many emotive and empty arguments for going to the CCJ. So many emotive and arguments for going to the CCJ. Folks, the CCJ was constituted back in 2001. Out of the 15 countries eligible to go to the CCJ, out of the 15, only 4 have gone. Only 4 have gone. Referendum after referendum in the Caribbean, the people have said the same thing. We do not want us to go to the CCJ. Even Trinidad, where the Caribbean Court of Justice is based, has refused to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. Even Trinidad. The 2 biggest countries in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Jamaica, have both refused to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. So why is Saint Lucia in a rush? Why is Saint Lucia in such a rush? Why is Saint Lucia making this fundamental change to our constitution, which cannot be reversed? Without the blessings of the people. Folks, I have heard all sorts of baseless arguments for this. You think the Caribbean Court of Justice is going to solve our problems? You think the Caribbean Court of Justice is going to solve our problems? Folks, we need to fix our lower courts first. We need to fix our lower courts first. That is where we should be focusing our efforts, on fixing our lower courts. We all know of the long wait times for justice. We need to address that first. We need to address the corruption in our lower courts, and let us pretend we don't know. We need to fix those matters first. The long wait times, the fact that people are waiting years to have matters go through the courts, that they cannot get justice. The fact that our judiciary is so tainted, so corrupt, that there is no trust in our judiciary. The fact that we know there's so much political interference with our judicial system. And let us not fool ourselves. No matter if you're red, yellow, blue, pink, purple, black, or white, we know that there's significant political interference with our judiciary. Let's not pretend we don't know. We need to trust our lower courts first. We need to fix those issues first. Before we think that the Caribbean Court of Justice will solve our problems for us. It won't. It won't. Before a matter can get to the CCJ, it has to work its way through our lower courts. Fix that first. We cannot even address that. But yet we are going after the big, shiny things. We are going after the big, shiny things, the CCJ. Fix our issues first. Folks, the political interference in our judicial and legal systems have caused all Saint Lucians, all, even those that support this government, if they are true and honest, and even if they don't admit it publicly, the blatant political interference in our legal and judicial systems in Saint Lucia is very concerning. Very. When you have a matter like the Range Rover scandal, and this might very well be, very well be the reason why this government is such in a hurry to go to the CCJ as a final appeals court as opposed to the Privy Council. When you have such heavy-handed and blatant political interference in our legal and judicial system, as Ernest Hillay, our Deputy Prime Minister, when you have that and all sorts of characters and institutions and people and offices that this one matter has corrupted just to save a few dollars in taxes, just to evade a few dollars, a few pounds in taxes, this tells you everything you need to know. Folks, you have Ernest Hillay. You had Ernest Hillay, who was then the UK High Commissioner, Saint Lucia High Commissioner to the UK, who used his duty-free status as a diplomat, as a sitting diplomat, who used his status to purchase a vehicle, one Range Rover, for his brother, which he was not supposed to do, folks. Which he was not supposed to do. And his brother at that time was heading up a customs, an excise department, a regional customs excise department, which are supposed to have been cracking down on this very thing, customs evasion. He used his diplomatic status to purchase a vehicle for his brother and send it to his brother, to evade the duties in England and in Saint Lucia. Not only was he corrupt as our Saint Lucia's High Commissioner, his brother was also corrupt as well. And his brother, customs officer, heading up a regional customs organization. Somebody put in the chat, remind me of the name of that customs organization. Put it in the chat, please. He used it. When he tried to get it to purchase a vehicle for himself, because he had used his one allowance by one vehicle, used it for his brother. When he tried to get it again, he was told he's no longer entitled because he's used his allowance. He asked the Fowler Williams, listen to how many people and institutions and St. Lucian government offices Ernest Hillay has corrupted to get away. And follow me closely, because there's a link to the CCJ. I want you all to follow me closely, because there is a link I am going to make to the CCJ. Follow me closely. Écoutez bien. When he was told he could not get it because he had gotten it already, he asked the Fowler Williams, who also worked in the UK High Commission office, a diplomat there as well, to use his. The UK High Commission office said to Fowler, but you've used yours as well. You cannot get it. You've used yours. The guys lied. And they said they made a mistake on the request. It is not for their personal vehicle. It is for a vehicle for the UK High Commission fleet, the fleet of corporate vehicles. They want to purchase it for the UK High Commission's office. For the office. Not for them personally, for the office. So he could not get it. He was denied. He asked the Fowler was denied. They lied to the UK High Commission's office and said it was for the fleet, a corporate fleet for the office. It wasn't for them personally. Lied upon lied. Corrupted our UK High Commission's office. corrupted our UK High Commission's office, corrupted our diplomatic office, jeopardizing our relationship, potentially jeopardizing our relationship with the UK. Corrupted our diplomatic offices through lies, blatant lies, just to evade a few thousands of pounds in taxes. They got a vehicle which the UK Overseas Office gave to out as a fleet vehicle, which was supposed to have been for the UK High Commission's office, not for Tafawa, not for Ernest Hilaire. He did all kinds of shenanigans, had all kinds of letters written on our Saint Lucian letterheads, some of which were signed by Albert Frigis. Hear me clearly? You see how many people that have been corrupted just to get away for a few thousands of pounds? You see how many people, professionals who have been tainted and compromised in this? The vehicle was finally shipped to Saint Lucia without any documentation to show that Ernest Hilaire is the owner of the vehicle, because the vehicle is still held in the name of the Saint Lucia's High Commission in the UK. It is not in Ernest Hilaire's name. How has he registered it? How has he registered it in his name? He compromised our Ministry of Transportation. Our UK High Commission's office has been compromised. Tafawa Williams has been compromised. Albert Frigis has been compromised. The Ministry of Transportation in Saint Lucia has been compromised. He has compromised our customs department to get away with the clearance of this vehicle. And folks, you know that since this government has come into power, they have removed an acting customs controller and replaced it with their guy who will do their bidding, who has dismissed a legitimate case. They have, listen to me clearly, écoutez-moi bien. They have removed, when they came into office, first thing they did, there's a standing matter against Ernest Hilaire. They removed the acting commissioner of police, of customs, the acting customs controller, removed him and replaced him with their guy. And the first thing the guy did was to drop the charges against Ernest Hilaire without any explanation. Without any explanation. And you have a prime minister who goes to court, and in his own words will tell you he went to see that justice was served. And he goes with the Speaker of the House to see that justice was served. And while this matter was still outstanding, instead of firing Ernest Hilaire, you know what Philip Pierre did? He promoted him to Deputy Prime Minister. While this matter was still hanging over his head, he promoted him to Deputy Prime Minister, rewarding corruption in high office. But folks, this is to show you the political interference in our judicial and legal systems. And this is why so few Caribbean people, me included, have zero trust in the Caribbean Court of Justice to be a neutral, objective party. Folks, this is why, I will say it again, so many Caribbean people have zero confidence in the Caribbean Court of Justice. So we also saw the corruption of our Attorney General's office. Attorney General Leslie Mondesi, who was Ernest Hilaire's private lawyer before this government got into power. So he's come in as Attorney General in Saint Lucia. Ernest Hayley is now a minister and deputy prime minister. And he now refuses to do his job and represent the former acting controller of customs as he should have been doing, because this guy was exercising his legitimate and lawful duty as a customs controller. He refuses to represent him. This guy had to go and get private counsel, to pay for private lawyers, because the Attorney General, Leslie Mondesi, Ernest Hisley, private lawyer, now Attorney General, refuses to do his job and represent the former controller of customs. Folks, if this is not the ultimate corruption of all of our offices, all of our institutions, all of our ministries, and our law, our legal and judicial systems, I do not know what is. The tainting, the corruption, the compromising, the integrity, the credibility of so many institutions in this one act to save a few thousands of pounds. To save a few thousands of pounds in taxes. If they will go through these lengths to save a few thousands of pounds in taxes, what won't they do for other issues? But I'm telling you all, this is the reason why there is this rush to go to the CCJ, because this matter is not finished. There is still a private, while the new customs controller, they put in quickly as they got into power, who dropped the charges the next day. There is still a private civil matter. There is a civil matter against the former controller of customs, Peter Chico. And that matter will ultimately go to the Privy Council or the Caribbean Court of Justice. If it gets there, whichever one, but it will eventually end up there, because it will go all the way up. Folks, I have zero confidence. I'm telling you, in the integrity of the Caribbean Court of Justice. This Caribbean Court of Justice is too heavily intertwined. And I will play something for you in a second. But the players, the same lawyers, turn judges, turn politicians, turn attorney generals, turn this, turn that, they are all the same people. Too heavily intertwined. They cannot separate themselves. And that's why I do not trust the Caribbean Court of Justice to deliver any impartial decision. When the same people who were law students at UWI, and UWI, my alma mater, my former university, and yes, I'm a graduate of the UWI, the breeding ground for those people, the comrades in the UWI faculty of law, who were classmates, who were roommates back in the day, turn lawyer, turn judges, turn politicians, turn the same people who are appointing the judges for the CCJ, turn judges in the CCJ. They are all intertwined and they cannot be separated. The comrades, the Labour Party comrades in the Caribbean. And I'm telling you all, there's a move afoot. And it's not just afoot, it's already in play to turn a lot of the Caribbean into one-party Labour Party states. We see it in Grenada. We see it in St. Vincent. We see it in Barbados. We see it in Saint Lucia. We see it in Dominica. We see it in Antigua. All Labour Party governments, all comrades of each other. All comrades of each other. And it's one thing to have Labour Party governments in these countries, but there are deliberate efforts to create one-party states in those countries. I am asking you all to open your eyes to what is happening in the Caribbean. And the CCJ is another mechanism for doing that, aided and abetted by University of the West Indies and their leadership. And I'm going to play for y'all a clip by Vice Chancellor Hilary Beckles. But let me first play for you a clip by Antigone. She's a member of the opposition in Antigua. Let me play this for you.
Saunders said this morning, why should we trust you? Why should you trust people you don't know as opposed to your own? And questioning whether we were saying that our people were inherently dishonest. No, my dear sir. No, my honorable judge. We are not saying that at all. We would never say that, most upright judge. But the argument cannot be diminished that there is a lack of distance of the CCJ judges from the political directorate. All these judges and lawyers know each other and in some cases are related. What we are saying is that...
Listen to this again. Listen to this again. Listen to this. And this is ultimately and fundamentally one of the biggest issues with the Caribbean Court of Justice. Listen to this again.
All these judges and lawyers know each other and in some cases are related. What we are saying is that judges are humans. And whilst they know that they should rule according to the law, there's a certain amount of psychological pressure that may make them unable to resist the impulse to rule in favor of their bias. Give us the distant justice that the Privy Council offers. No familiar social, political ties to any person's access in the court. They know no one. They have no interest in seeing one.
Listen again. I want you all to listen to what she's saying.
That the Privy What we are saying is that judges are humans.
Judges are humans. Judges are humans. Whether we think that they just because they're a judge, you don't have any bias and they will operate objectively, is not the case. We have seen time and time and time again in Saint Lucia that they are incapable of separating themselves from their comrades, from their friends, from the people they represent when they're in private practice. Now they are attorneys general. Now they are judges. We have seen that they are incapable of separating themselves and operating impartially.
Whilst they know that they should rule according to the law, there's a certain amount of psychological pressure that may make them unable to resist the impulse to rule in favor of their bias. Give us the distant justice that the Privy Council offers.
Give us the distant justice that the Privy Council offers. Give us the distant justice that the Privy Council offers. The Privy Council ain't care about they never went to school with none of those people there. None of the politicians in the Caribbean they went to school with. None of them are their friends, none of them are their families, none of them are their comrades. But you see, they don't want that. They don't want that distance. They don't want that neutrality. They don't want that objectivity. They want people who they can manipulate via their friendships. They're all Huey boys, all Huey law boys days. Their friendships they can manipulate to manipulate the outcomes of cases in the Caribbean.
No familiar social, political ties to any person's access in the court. They know no one. They have no interest in seeing one party win over the other. They will apply the law without fear or favor. And we will be able to say, truly, justice is blind. That's why we trust the Privy Council lords. And trust is a must.
Trust is a must. That's why we trust the Privy Council lords. And trust is a must. And that trust is what we do not have. What we do not have in the current crop of lawyers, judges, magistrates, attorneys generals, and judges in our Caribbean courts. Not because we think that they're inadequate because they're Caribbean like us, but because of what history has shown us. Because of what history has shown us. And past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior.
They will apply the law without fear or favor, and we will be able to say, truly, justice is blind. That's why we trust the Privy Council lords, and trust is a must. The president of the CCJ is approved by a supermajority vote.
Folks, that is why we want the arm's length of the Privy Council. They try to make it, they bring this dumbed down argument. That they bring this colonialism argument. I'll talk about it in a second. This colonialism argument. Oh, we're doing the Privy Council. We want to break all remnants of the colonialism. The Privy Council operates at arm's length of any political interference. The Privy Council operates at arm's length of any political interference that these guys can and do orchestrate, as they have shown us time and time again, not just in Saint Lucia. If you listen to this lady from Antigua speak, the same thing happens all across the Caribbean. And that is why only 4 out of the 15 Caribbean countries have gone to the CCJ. 4 out of 15. The Privy Council operates at arm's length of any political interference of Caribbean and the UE comrades. The UE comrades all over the Caribbean that operate like a lodge. Who operate like a lodge. Hear me when I tell you this. They operate like a lodge. The Privy Council, they have no business with that. They separate and apart. They don't care who related to who went to school with who was in the same dorm with who was their private lawyer to an attorney general to a judge to this one, who on the committee selecting who went to cocktails with who with. They do not care. And that is why we have trust in the Privy Council to operate objectively and neutrally, without bias. They have no gain, as we say. They have no gain in that. That's what they say in Jamaica. They have no gain in that. They say they have no gain in that. They have no gain in that. Folks, and this colonialism argument that they want to come with. Oh, we need to sever all the remnants of colonialism, all the ties of colonialism. This is a feel-good, empty argument. Empty. You severing the links of colonialism with the British, but you're creating the same colonialism in the Caribbean. Colonialism by another name. Colonialism dominated. You are creating the CCJ. Colonialism. A different kind of colonialism. Not dominated by the white lords in the Privy Council in England. Dominated by the black house slaves. The black house slaves. Those who went to the University of the West Indies, faculty of law, who were partners and comrades with each other. Back in the day, pushing a communist ideology. Yes, back in the day, pushing a communist ideology. Back in the day, the new ones not so much. But they are all friends, all partners, all two classmates, all dorm mates, all in the same halls, all the partners, and they very much intertwined. We are creating a new form of colonization and colonialism of a different kind, but it's the same, dominated by the UE elites. The UE Old Boys Club. the UE Legal Lodge, the UE Legal Fraternity Lodge, who believe they can control the outcomes of the Caribbean by controlling the law processes and the judiciary. And too bad for anybody who is not one of the comrades. Too bad for anybody who is not one of the comrades to ever get a fair trial with the UE old law boys. If I lie, tell me I lie. I'm looking at the comments. If I lie, tell me I lie. If I lie, I stand corrected. Tell me I lie in the comments. Tell me if I'm lying about what I'm saying. Tell me. I'm waiting for the comments. Tell me if I'm lying. This is called colonialism by a different name. In fact, it's still colonialism, except instead of white colonialism, it is black colonialism by the UE elites, the house slaves, those who had the opportunity to go to UE law school. It is still colonialism. If I lie, tell me I lie. Waiting for your comments. Folks, listen to this. This is, and let me prove my point to you again. And going back to that same Range Rover issue, that Rover Gate issue, and the contamination of so many of our public offices and our public officials and our judiciary and our legal systems, all the way up to the Caribbean Court of Justice. It started in the UK. This perversion of justice, this contamination, this compromising of our offices started in the UK, came to Saint Lucia, and is heading to the CCJ. The UK, Saint Lucia, CCJ. This is where it's heading. And so many of our people have been compromised, bending over backwards to protect one man, Ernest Hilaire, who tried to defraud both the UK and the Saint Lucia governments over a few thousands of dollars and pounds. Look ahead, listen to Thaddeus Antoine, who is bonjour with Ernest Hilaire. Good friends. He's chairman of all the boards under Ernest's ministries. Good friends. One of Ernest Hilaire's personal lawyers, chairman of Saint Lucia Tourism Authority, co-owner of Red International. Listen to Thaddeus Antoine, but more than this, more than all of this, Thaddeus Antoine is now Give me a second. More than all of this, Thaddeus Antoine has now been appointed to the Regional Judicial Legal Services Commission, a regional body which selects judges to serve on the Caribbean Court of Justice. Folks, hear me when I tell you this. Ernest Hilaire's, you see what I tell you? How they do? Yes, Estelle, it's called elite capture. They capture and control institutions. and dominate these institutions to push their agenda. That is what has happened here. Thaddeus Antoine, who every Saint Lucian knows, every Saint Lucian, is not any outstanding legal luminary. He's not. Thaddeus Antoine is not an outstanding legal luminary by any stretch of the imagination. Thaddeus Antoine has a lot of flair, a lot of dresses in tight suits, and he has a lot of flair, He's not bright. He's not. Let's call a spade a spade. He's not. And no personal diss to Thaddeus. It is what it is. He's not. If you're looking for a bright lawyer, I know one goes to Thaddeus. I could call 200, 300, 400 bright lawyers before Thaddeus. He's not. Let's just call a spade a spade. But he has found again, the comrades, the Caribbean comrades. He's found himself as an appointee on the Regional Judicial Legal Services Commission. And this body selects judges to serve on the Caribbean Court of Justice. Folks, listen to what Thaddeus Antoine had to say in defense of Ernest Hilaire's fraudulent actions to bring in that second Range Rover. Listen to this, folks. Listen to this.
Purchase a vehicle. Why ask somebody else to purchase the vehicle? And
listen to this. Listen to this.
Shouldn't it end there because you really cannot purchase a vehicle? Why ask somebody else to purchase the vehicle and another person to purchase the vehicle and eventually to have this vehicle in the name of the High Commission? Now, to the ordinary man in the street, isn't that a form of dishonesty?
It's not. Dishonesty if you hide it from the person who you're purchasing from. You don't hide it.
Folks, listen to this again. Listen to this clearly. Listen to this person who is on this regional body who will be appointing judges to the Caribbean Court of Justice. The circus they want to take Saint Lucians to without a referendum. Listen to this.
Shouldn't it end there because you really cannot purchase a vehicle? Why ask somebody else to purchase the vehicle and another person to purchase the vehicle and eventually to have this vehicle in the name of the High Commission? Now, to the ordinary man in the street, isn't that a form of dishonesty?
It's not. Dishonesty if you hide it from the person who you're purchasing from.
Thaddeus Antoine says it is dishonesty if you hide from the person you're purchasing from. Thaddeus, the person you are purchasing from is not the issue. The issue is that you are defrauding. You are defrauding. Whether it's the government of the UK, whether it's the government of Saint Lucia, you are defrauding. So the issue is not whether Colombian Emeralds knows or the BMW or the Range Rover in the UK knows. The issue that you are defrauding is not the purchaser that's the issue. The issue is the country's laws with regards to customs and excise and taxes. How could you be a lawyer and not understand that? Are you dumbing this down? Are you playing stupid? Are you blatantly fraudulent? Are you compromising whatever integrity you have to defend your buddy, your comrade? But I don't know how you could be so stupid.
Shouldn't it end there because you really cannot purchase a vehicle? Why ask somebody else to purchase the vehicle and another person to purchase the vehicle and eventually to have this vehicle in the name of the High Commission? Now, to the ordinary man in the street, isn't that a form of dishonesty?
It's not. Dishonesty if you hide it from the person who you're purchasing from. You're not hiding anything. When you go to Colombian Emeralds,
listen to this.
And you go to the Free Caribbean.
Listen to this. Listen to his justification, y'all. Listen to this.
Somebody else to purchase the vehicle and another person to purchase the vehicle and eventually to have this vehicle in the name of the High Commission. Now, to the ordinary man in the street, isn't that a form of dishonesty?
It's not. Dishonesty if you hide it from the person who you're purchasing from. You're not hiding anything. When you go to Colombian Emeralds and you go to the Free Caribbean to buy purchase go duty free, and you come with your friend's tickets, your friend's ticket information, right? You think Colombian Emeralds not aware that is not your goods?
The guy has totally totally missed the point. The guy says, when you are coming with your friend's ticket to go to Cayman Emeralds or Duty Free Caribbean to buy something duty free, your friend's ticket or your friend's duty free information, isn't Cayman Emeralds not aware that you're doing that? Folks, that is completely beside the point. In addition to being illegal, because the law says you are entitled to duty free. If you're traveling and not just traveling, and taking that good outside of Saint Lucia, you are exporting the good. If I am the traveler and I am exporting the good, I am given duty free at certain duty free stores, a duty free allowance, so I don't pay duty, under the undertaking that I am traveling and I am leaving Saint Lucia with that good. Yes, we know that people act illegally and defraud. Yes, it is fraud. And defraud the government of Saint Lucia by using people's duty-free information or going their friend and they get a duty-free and the good never leaves Saint Lucia. That is fraud. That is fraud, Thaddeus. That is fraud. And whether Cayman Emeralds knows what you're doing is irrelevant. Because you're not defrauding Cayman Emeralds, you're defrauding the government of Saint Lucia, Inland Revenue, Customs. Sorry, not Inland Revenue, Customs and Excise. You have completely missed the point. And this is the person who is on this regional body to appoint judges to the Caribbean Court of Justice. And we're supposed to have confidence in the Caribbean Court of Justice? Where? How? Listen again.
If you hide it from the person who you're purchasing from, you're not hiding anything. When you go to Cayman Emeralds and you go to Duty Caribbean to buy purchase go duty free, and you come with your friend's tickets, your friend's information, all right? You think Cayman Emeralds not aware that is not your goods? They know the ticket doesn't belong to you. It's not in your name. This is exactly what transpired there. Using somebody's discount. If someone has a discount card and they could purchase goods, they purchase the goods on your behalf. This is what transpired there. Nothing else but that. Right? But the person selling the goods is aware of it.
Yeah, we ask 100 married men.
Shouldn't it end there? Because
folks, this is Thaddeus Antoine. But folks, more so, when I keep telling you all about the UE Old Boys Lodge and the Boys Club and how they operate, and the Labour one-party states that they are trying and they have partially succeeded to create in the Caribbean. The one-party states in the Caribbean, the Labour Party one Caribbean states, that is their agenda, this Labour Party Lodge. Y'all think I lie? Aided and abetted by the leadership of the University of the West Indies, including Rosemary Bell Antoine, including her, who was the Dean of Law in the faculty of St. Augustine campus, who is now the principal of St. Augustine campus, the Vice Chancellor Hilary Beckles, who is now the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies. And listen to Hilary Beckles, Sir Professor Hilary Beckles' comments at a Saint Lucia Independence, 44th Independence lecture. Folks, this was not a Labour Party conference he got invited to and he's speaking to Labour Party audience. This is to all Saint Lucians. Listen to his comments. Listen to his comments.
Claimed that he was definitely not aware of the plans of Neville Snack. Caught him by surprise, he said. But nonetheless, he was happy because his fortunes changed from 9-8 to 10-7. And so, it's not the first time it has happened. But as dirty as politics is, when at the last moment a politician decides that he no longer wants to be Flubble, he now wants to become and he wants to be an independent candidate, knowing full well that when or if he wins that seat, he will be forming an alliance with the Saint Lucia Labour Party. If the Saint Lucia Labour Party won the elections, then that's unacceptable. That there's nothing classy about this. There's nothing sophisticated about this. You hoodwink your party, you misled them, you also betrayed your party, your leader, and fellow candidates. But I won't describe this as political sophistication or pure class. I don't know if we're in a position to play that clip of Professor Hilary Beckers delivering the independence lecture last evening.
And Prime Minister, I have to say this in public. You see that move that you and Mr. King, that move that you and Mr. King put together? Pure class. Pure class. Political sophistication. Sophistication. And Prime Minister, I have to say this in public. You see that move that you and Mr. King, that move that you and Mr. King put together? Pure class. Pure class.
Folks, this is the Vice Chancellor. This is not an ordinary person. This is not an ordinary lecturer at UE. This is the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, the Caribbean's leading and supposedly most respectable, most reputable post-secondary learning institution. This is the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies coming to Saint Lucia for our 44th independence lecture and making a comment that the deceptive, deceitful lies by Stephenson King, the unholy alliance created by Stephenson King and Philip Pierre, be under the cover of darkness. Folks, under the cover of darkness. Not to say they were transparent and upfront, to say, I'm decided at the UWP, I'm voting against Alan Chastney in a vote of no confidence, I'm leaving Alan Chastney, I'm going to be joining the Labour Party. On the man, Stephenson King, was on the Flubbo Forum on the Sunday night, supporting the Alan Chastney government. On the Tuesday, elections were announced. By the Wednesday, he had defected and said he was suffering in silence for 5 years. 5 years he came to Parliament and supported every single budget, every single piece of legislation for 5 years. But he and Philip Pierre, under the cover of darkness, literally and figuratively, during COVID lockdowns, they were meeting in secret places to carry out this manipulation on the population and people of Saint Lucia. He lied. When Philip Pierre could not keep his mouth shut and said Stephenson King will be coming across to us, like Ron Lewis came across to us. Stephenson King pled bloody murder. That was not true. That was not true. That was not true. That was not true. He's independent. He's blue wave. He's not going across to Labour. Philippe had to come and try to retract what he said when he realized the fallout of what happened. All along, it was true. So the manipulation of Saint Lucians, lying to Saint Lucians, the deception of Saint Lucians. You didn't just deceive Alan Chasney and the European government. They deceived Saint Lucians. They deceived voters. And you have the Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, my alma mater, coming on our 44th independence anniversary to tell Saint Lucians this was a classy and sophisticated move. And when I tell you all, there is not a regional move afoot, aided and abetted by the University of the West Indies, the Labour Party comrades, especially the law fraternity, to create Labour Party one-party states, aided and supported by the local legal judiciary systems in their countries and a Caribbean Court of Justice. You all think I'm lying? I am telling you all how Labour Party operates. And folks, I dare tell you, it's too bad I couldn't show you all the video of who was clapping in the audience at that lecture. But who was clapping in the audience are the very same ones, the very same SLP boys, the very same SLP UE boys, who also sit on the Saint Lucia National Distrust. When I keep telling you all that Labour Party infiltrates every single organization, it's called elite capture. Yes, Estelle, it is called elite capture. They infiltrate every single organization and they control it. The civil organizations, the unions, your judicial systems. That is how they maintain control. If there's a matter that comes up where the outcome of elections will be decided, you think the Caribbean Court of Justice will ever rule against the Labour Party? Folks, this is not about political parties in any event. This is about the fact that our highest appeals courts needs to be objective, neutral, impartial, and at arm's length from all the political manipulations that go on in the Caribbean that these guys have shown us that they're incapable of doing. And folks, let me tell you, that argument that they're coming with about the cost of going to the if you have somebody else go to the court, to the Privy Council, the cost of doing it and the cost of going to CCJ, that's a stupid argument. That's a stupid argument that holds no weight. And if you listen to the full message of what this Antiguan opposition member tells you, who's actually investigated the cost of going to the Privy Council versus the cost of going to the CCJ, like she rightfully says, the cost, the onerous cost of going to the Privy Council is basically local lawyers' fees. Not the lords in England, not the lawyers in England, the local lawyers. That is what causes it to be expensive. So it's not the cost of going to the Privy Council. Don't be fooled. I have not seen a single credible argument for going to the CCJ. I have not one. This colonialism argument they have is BS. This cost argument they have is BS. I have not seen a single strong argument for going to the Caribbean Court of Justice as opposed to the Privy Council. As a matter of fact, I see plenty arguments not to go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. But in any event, that is just my opinion. In any event, we need to take it to a referendum. If the majority say we go to the Caribbean Court of Justice, then we should go to the Caribbean Court of Justice. But we need to take it to a referendum. And I want all Saint Lucians to come out, regardless of political affiliation, on Tuesday, outside the House of Parliament. On Tuesday morning, wear whatever color you want. Red, yellow, black, blue, pink, whatever color you want. Come out outside the house. And make your concerns heard to the members of parliament as they go into the house. Make your concerns heard to them. You have a right to do that. You have not just a right, you have a responsibility as Saint Lucians to do that. Folks, what I really advertised the show as much earlier this week was to talk about the new Tourism Development Act. And because of this CCJ thing that has come up, that has taken up the majority of the time on the show. So I'm going to come back to that in final detail. I really want to go through the provisions of all the clauses of that act to really tell you the implications for what it means for the ordinary person who's in the tourism industry in Saint Lucia trying to hustle to earn a living. And we won't have time to do that tonight. But I will just tell you that this government has now gone. They are amending the Tourism Development Act to people who have not, basically any and everybody selling goods or services to tourists have to go through this, to jump through hoops, bureaucratic hoops, to get certified. To get certified. And folks, just remember, during COVID, most of those businesses were already certified. They had to go through all kinds of health and safety, all kinds of hoops during COVID to become a certified tourism whatever. This government is forcing them to go through another set of hoops with another set of money. Folks, it's all well and good for the big operators, you know. They have the departments who can do up the paperwork, who can go through they have the accounting department, they have this department, they have that department. They can go through the paperwork and process and then pay for the fees. It's all good, well and good for the bigger operators. It is the small, local, one-man show. The person in the communities who is trying to earn a living for themselves by tapping into our biggest industry, our tourism industry, that are trying to get a little piece of the pie for themselves, that this legislation is going to hurt. And I am waiting to hear what the SLHTA has to say about this. Folks, I am waiting to see if that their only concern is about the big operators. The big operators can jump through the bureaucracy. They can jump through the hoops, all of the processes and certifications and all of what they're asking for, all the whole heap of list things they're asking for. They can jump through it. They can pay the big fees. It is the small person I am concerned about. Folks, Alan Chasney. We like to say that Alan Chasney, they like to paint Alan Chasney as this white man, far removed from the realities of the Saint Lucians. Alan Chasney is not a white man. He's not. He's very much Saint Lucian. He's very much mixed race Saint Lucian, like many of us, or most of us. We come from all different things. Black, white, Indian, Syrian, Chinese, all kind of mix up. We all kind of mix up in Saint Lucia. Alan Chasney is not different. I all kind of mix up as well. But there's a saying, not every black man is a brother. Not every white man is an enemy. Not saying Alan Chasney is a white man, because he's not. But if you want to paint him as a white man, not every black man is a brother, and not every white man is an enemy. When you could tell me a government that says that they are putting people first can come and put some such onerous, burdensome legislation on the backs of the ordinary Saint Lucian in the community trying to earn a living off of tourism, do you really care about Saint Lucians? The ordinary Saint Lucian. Folks, Alan Chasney created the village tourism legislation. The village tourism legislation to create a village tourism agency, which I was supposed to head up. Yes, because my background is in tourism, as you all know. Don't even try me. My background, education, experience in Saint Lucia, in Canada, all over Canada, is in tourism. And yes, I was supposed to head up that agency. So I know for a fact the legislation was to benefit the ordinary Saint Lucian in the communities, to make sure the benefits of tourism filter down throughout the communities, and that all Saint Lucians, including the ordinary Saint Lucian in the communities, can be a beneficiary of tourism, and it does not just remain for the big players. You see, government after government has come and gone, and tourism has remained confined to tourism hubs, to the resort areas, to Rodney Bay, to Soufrière, to Marigot. Alan Chasney came and said, no, it can't just be the big boys, it can't just be the big hotels that are benefiting from tourism. It has to be the ordinary Saint Lucian. Not every black man is a brother, not every white man is the enemy. If you want to call Alan Chasney a white man, he's not, but I'm telling you, he wanted to ensure that the benefits of tourism went into the local communities. This government came and they saw it was a good thing. He saw exactly what he was doing was a good thing. But they so don't want to give him credit. They changed the name from village tourism to community tourism. Okay, let them change the name. We know it was Alan Chasney's work, period. That undisputed. Undisputed. When people come and talk about Alan Chasney didn't build any new hotels since he's been in, like I always say, he didn't bring any new big hotels, but you know what he brought? Locally owned stocks of rooms. Under the expansion of tourism under Alan Chasney, you had Saint Lucians adding pieces to their homes with rooms that people had in Airbnb, villas that they put up for short-term rental to tourists. So while we didn't have any one or two new hotels with 300 rooms each and 600 rooms, we had a new stock of locally owned hotel rooms on Airbnb. And I challenge anybody, go on Airbnb. Go on Airbnb. Go on VRBO and you will see how many Airbnbs that we have owned by Saint Lucians that tourists come to. That is what we speak about by village tourism, where the benefits of tourism filter into the communities. But this government, instead of understanding that tourism is a catalyst for economic development, they only see tourism as a method of taxing, because this government has no creative means of raising revenue. So this piece of legislation is now going to put taxes upon taxes upon taxes. Businesses that are already certified under other pieces of legislation now have to go through these hoops and pay more money to the government. Local operators. Instead of investing in these people so they can grow their businesses, this government is coming and tax them and burden them with all kinds of bureaucratic paperwork. Putting people first. Putting people first. Folks, the legislation the Ministry of Tourism has in place, they don't even have the manpower to enforce it. They don't even have the staff, the resources to deliver that. They come in with this new onerous piece of legislation. Somebody said to me, the requirements are a big red tape. And this is somebody who works in the tourism industry. The requirements are the person said to me, the fees are unreasonable. The requirements and the red tape are unreasonable. That is the big issue. And the regular reporting requirements. It is a lot for small operators. They need to beef up the support structure in the ministry to allow the small and medium enterprises to meet all these requirements. Phase them in rather than this heavy-handed approach they're coming with now. Grandfather those who are already COVID certified, as they already had to meet high standards. Folks, but when you have a government without any vision, when you have a government that does not care about the poor people, who don't understand development, who do not understand incubators, who do not understand how you take a small person with an idea and you really help that person to grow and help that person to grow. You do not burden them with paperwork, red tape, and fees. But these guys don't understand development. But even if you don't understand development, just your love for people could tell you that's not it. That's not it. Folks, moving right along. Folks, we've heard about a portion of land that was recently sold by the NHC to Reno Gajada's daughter, a piece of land in Banansby. Folks, a piece of land in Banansby, one of the last remaining pieces of land that will not be part of the GPH, the Global Ports Holding. You remember that our cruise ship port is being sold to GPH, sold for 40 years, leased for 40 years, sold member gaila, same thing. Leased for 40 years, I'll be dead by then. Most of us listening will be dead. Sold. One of the last pieces of land sold to Reno Gajada's daughter. In effect, you're selling to Reno. Let's not kid ourselves. We know where the land is being sold, who the land is being sold to. Folks, that land was not advertised publicly. It was not advertised publicly for everybody to buy it. Richard Frederick took it upon himself to sell that land directly to Reno Gajada without advertising it. You're disposing of, basically, NHC is a statutory organization. Yeah, so while the land is vested in NHC, it's basically land that belongs to the government and people of Saint Lucia. You're disposing of it. You're not disposing of it. You're selling it directly to Reno Gajada. And you have not advertised it publicly for people to buy it, for everybody else to have a chance to buy it. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Was there a kickback in the sale of this land? Richard Frederick, I am asking you, was there a kickback in the sale of this land? Richard Frederick, I am asking you, was there a kickback in the sale of the land? And when you come and answer me, you like to come and insult people, answer this one too. When you are Minister of Government in the Stephenson King administration, in the then UWP Stephenson King administration, in the Freedom Bay project, when Wayne Gerard, who is now a government minister, was one of the owners or the principals of Freedom Bay, was there a kickback? Was there a kickback to get a lease of the Queen's Chain, Richard Frederick? When you come and answer the question and you want to insult people, make sure you answer me correctly. Make sure you answer me correctly, Richard Frederick. Make sure you answer me correctly. Was there a kickback in the sale of the land to Reno Gajada? And while you're at it answering that question, answer me. Was there a kickback when you were in the Stevenson King administration for the Queen's Chain lease to Freedom Bay, of which Wayne Girard, who is now a Minister of Government, was a principal, was one of the 3 principals on that project? Answer me those questions. Insulting will not change the outcome. Just answer the question. Anyway, back to Reno Gajada and that land. So I would like to know from Slasper, what is the expansion? Because most of that waterfront in that Cashews Basin is going to be owned by GPH. This piece of land is one of the last pieces of land remaining. So basically, it's gone. Slasper cannot expand, no way, no how, neither left nor right. There is no more land left for Slasper to expand. So I'm asking, what are Slasper's expansionary plans? What are the developmental plans? Do they have any? Because folks, most ports, universities, etc., you have land around for expansion. Even St. Jude's Hospital, the St. Jude's Hospital, the new state-of-the-art St. Jude's Hospital, it was built in a way it could expand as population grows, etc. That's how you build. You don't build now for now. You don't put infrastructure now for now. You build infrastructure with a developmental plan ahead. Or even if you don't build it out to full scope at the moment, but you leave space around it for development, for expansion as population grows, as opportunities arise, you take advantage of it. But with GPH taking up all that space there for 40 years, essentially sold, Richard Frederick selling that piece of land to Reno Gajada for God alone knows what. For God alone knows what. I am asking whether Slasper has plans to expand. And I'm also asking, what is Reno's interest in that piece of land? Is it because he intends to make that piece of land his own personal port? So resources like sand, cement, stones that cannot be put into port cacheries, that has to go to cul-de-sac. Is it his intention to create a port for himself in that piece of land? So his barge can come and offload there for him alone. Is that the intention? Is it the intention did he purchase this land to be able to single-handedly take advantage of the opportunities of GPH's ownership of the port cacheries? Folks, if this is not insider trading, I don't know what is. If this is not insider trading, I don't know what is. Meanwhile, the land was never advertised to the public. Meanwhile, you, nor me, nor any of us could have had the opportunity to buy that land if we wanted to, and if we had the money to. Sold directly to Reno's daughter, effectively Reno, by Richard Frederick. Folks, so no development can take place in port cacheries. None. Because there's no space to expand. Slasper has no space. And we know that under the GPH agreement, there's no development that can take place in Beaufort, period, for 40 years. No development can take place in Beaufort for 40 years. So GPH has tied the hands of Saint Lucia and our seaports for 40 years. Most of us listening tonight will not be alive. And we say nothing? Folks, we got the word this week, or this past week, this week, that, I'll read it for you. Let me find it. Just give me 1 second. We got word this week this week. This is a memo. This is a memo dated February 20th. It is from the Citizenship by Investment Agency, Saint Lucia, so CIP Saint Lucia, to authorized agents, promoters, and marketing agents from Citizenship by Investment Unit, dated February 20th, 2023. Update on this. The subject is update on the suspension of citizenship applications from specified jurisdictions. It reads, having monitored the ongoing global challenges and as a follow-up to the official memorandum previously sent regarding the matter at the subject, please note that the Saint Lucia Citizenship by Investment Unit shall not accept citizenship applications from the nationals of the following countries: the Russian Federation, the Republic of Belarus, and Iran. Please be guided accordingly. End. Folks, February 20th, 2023, 1 year after the whole invasion of Ukraine by Russia, where the world has taken sanctions against Russia. A year after, the whole world has taken sanctions against Russia. But remember last year at this time, it was actually early March 2022, when Ernest Hillay came out to say, we are still going to be, when the rest of the world had taken diplomatic actions to isolate Russia, for them to understand what they were doing in Ukraine was wrong, Saint Lucia, Ernest Hillay had dug his heels in and said we were still going to be selling our passports to Russians and saying that we cannot discriminate against Russians. Could you believe the craziness? When the world, the US, has told us that we would not be, that the rest of the world is basically taking action, you had Ernest Hillay saying we were going to go full speed ahead. After a lot of public and diplomatic pressure, he eventually yielded. That was a year ago, and there was a memorandum issued that asked agents to stop selling our passports to Russians. A year later, he reissues another memo about selling passports to Russians. So I'm asking Ernest Hillay, and I'm asking the CIP, was it stopped when that memo went out last year from March 2022. Were y'all still selling our Saint Lucian passports to Russians? If so, if not, why the need to reissue a memo a year later? Were y'all selling Saint Lucian passports under the table? Folks, I am warning y'all. I am telling y'all. Those of y'all who carry only one passport, you are going to find yourself into serious trouble. The US does not take kindly to those things. When you'll have long wait times to get US passports, when you'll find your US visas, when you'll find your US visas denied without explanation, or you only get a 1-year visa when you'd ordinarily get a 10-year visa, understand that these are all US tactics to squeeze Saint Lucia for what they are doing. Because this government has come in and their actions have been very hostile to the US government. And when they do things like that fly in the face of not just what the US is doing, what the world, the diplomatic actions the world has taken against Russia, you are the ones who will ultimately suffer. You are the ones who will ultimately suffer. These guys do not care, guys. Those guys do not care. These guys have diplomatic passports. These guys have diplomatic passports. They don't need visas to go to the US. Or they have US diplomatic visas. Or they have secondary citizenships. A lot of them have either Canadian secondary citizenships, UK, so they do not need visas to go to the US. They don't care with you. It is the ordinary Saint Lucian who's probably self-employed, who have a little hustle, who put in their money on a little bank account, who's saving their money, who have to go show the US embassy their money on their account, and begging and keep and praying they get a little US visa. Those people that barely scratching by to get a US visa, you are the ones who are ultimately going to pay the price for these reckless diplomatic actions. And speaking of this, where is Alva Baptiste, our Minister of Foreign Affairs? Because this is not just a CIP issue. This is not just a CIP issue. This is a matter of foreign affairs. This is a matter of our diplomatic relations. Where is Alva Baptiste on this issue? We have not heard Alva Baptiste when Alva Baptiste was the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the last Labour Party government. When that whole Jufali scandal broke, we had not heard Alva Baptiste. He was silent. When you had a returning diplomat caught up in the Rover Gate scandal, he was silent. Now you have issues of Saint Lucian's passports, our passports being sold to Russians, people from Belarus and Iranians. And Iran does not have the structure for us to do our due diligence on them. That is why Saint Lucia has never sold its passports to Iranians. But this government has come in and has made a change to that. So there is no due diligence being done on Iranians, but we are selling our passports to them. They are carrying the very same Saint Lucian passport you are carrying. If you can't understand the implications of that, when I don't know what to tell y'all. Let me read this for you. This is dated March 10th, 2022. So last year, just last year, soon after the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is from Grenada. It reads, Grenada Citizenship by Investment Program suspends Russian, Belarusian applicants. In a brief statement circulated among stakeholders today, Carlin Purcell, Chief Executive of Grenada's Citizenship by Investment Program Authorities, writes that the government of Grenada has decided to temporarily suspend the acceptance of new applications from Russians and Belarusians for citizenship by investment program with immediate effect, adding that the government is closely monitoring the current situation in Ukraine and will advise of any further changes to its current policy on the matter. Grenada CIP thus becomes the fourth in the Caribbean and the fifth overall to suspend the consideration of applications from Russian and Belarusian CIP investors. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Russians and Belarusian applicants have been barred from the CIPs of Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis, Malta, and finally Grenada. The Greek Golden Visa has also banned Russians, while Portugal's will not take applications from neither Russians nor Belarusians. Russian and Belarusian applicants remain welcome. Listen to this. Russian and Belarusian applicants remain welcome under the CIPs of Turkey, Montenegro, and Saint Lucia. So the rest of the Caribbean has banned him. The rest of the Caribbean and Malta has banned him, and Portugal. But they remain welcome by Turkey, Montenegro, and Saint Lucia, the final Caribbean holdout. Could y'all imagine? Where the minister responsible for CIP, Ernest Sile, has indicated an aversion to discriminating against CIP applications on the basis of nationality alone. So a year later, just this past week, a new memo was issued asking CIP agents to stop selling to Russia, Belarus, and Iran. Folks, this is this government. This is this government. And just this past week, in Toronto, just this past week in Toronto, for our 44th independence anniversary, our Consul General, Comrade Henry Mangal, hear me? Just this past week in Toronto, for our 44th independence anniversary celebrations, Comrade Henry Mangal, Saint Lucia's Consul General to Canada, invites the Russian ambassador to Saint Lucia's flag raising. Folks, Saint Lucia continues to provoke the US and the international community with these passive aggressive moves that fly in the face of the international community and international diplomacy. Why would Henry Mangal decide to invite when the rest of the world has taken diplomatic actions and sanctions against Russia to send a message in no uncertain terms that what they are doing in Ukraine will not be tolerated? Why would Henry Mangal, Saint Lucia's Consul General in Toronto for Canada, invite the Russian ambassador to Saint Lucia's flag raising ceremony for our independence? If that is not a provocative move, I do not know what is. When you see the backlash come for Saint Lucians, brace call. When you all see the backlash come for Saint Lucians. Folks, I'm going to leave you all here tonight. It's 10 o'clock in Saint Lucia. I wanted to come and do a more thorough analysis of the Tourism Act and go through the different clauses, but the CCJ has taken precedence. Folks, I am asking you all on Tuesday, all St. Lucians, stop being afraid and intimidated by this Labour Party government. Stop being afraid of this Labour Party government. Y'all get out in front of that House of Parliament. Wear whatever color you want. Go and stand in front of that House of Parliament. Forget political affiliation. Forget your strata in life. Forget all those things. We need, as Saint Lucians, we need to come and send a strong signal to this government that they legally can, but they should not be going to the CCJ without a referendum. Take it to the people. Take it to the people. If you think you have the blessings of the people, if you think the people support this, take it to a referendum and let the majority speak on our final court of appeal. Folks, on Tuesday, go out in your numbers outside the House of Parliament. Folks, that's it from me. Good night, everybody. Have a very good night.
The people them say them attack and nobody now listen them all along. So them want me put it in the form of a song. It's like some betray with trust. So this is to all of you from all of us. Providing no jobs and telling us stop the crime is like beating a child.